Hi, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk Chicago. My name's Jon Zaghloul. Great to have you here on Channel 59.3 BPOD TV and Roku. Big show today. Should the Bears trade for Brandin Cooks? He's on the market now, and do the Bears have been up to trade for him? Two big questions we're going to answer in just a second. Before we get started, make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. You want to watch more of this show? Search up Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube or go to sportstalkchicago.com. You can watch more shows from the BPOD TV network. Search up BPOD TV on YouTube. I want to start today with this. Every week, I'm making one of these videos. Everybody and their mother knows the Bears need wide receiving help. We all know Justin Fields has no weapons. How's he going to develop? It's a serious question, and every week we hear new rumors, we hear reports, but nothing has really come to fruition yet. We don't know. The Bears did make some minor moves. They got Pringle, they got St. Brown, who I'm not really a fan of. And they have Darnell Mooney, who could be a number one, for all we know. Maybe next year he really stands out and proves it. But the fact is, right now, the Bears have no veteran wide receivers. Could be looking at the draft. Fine by me. I have no issue with that. But believe it or not, there are still guys available. Haven't talked about this name as much, as DK Metcalf is really taken over the wide receiving trade market. But the fact is, Brandin Cooks is now also available. According to a report here from Fansided, it's been reported in other outlets too, the Texans want a second-round pick to get Brandin Cooks. Interesting. I've always been a fan of Brandin Cooks. His whole career. I remember watching him in New Orleans, went to the Patriots, Rams, and last year Texans. Last season, with Davis Mills, rookie quarterback, and part of Tyrod Taylor before he got hurt, still put up 1,000-plus yards. Proves to me it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, who the offensive planner, the offensive coordinator is, either. And if you look at Brandin Cooks and his numbers throughout his career, the guy always produces. No matter the scheme, no matter the coach, no matter the quarterback. As I talked about with Allen Robinson before the Bears cut ties with him, there are very few wide receivers who don't have to worry or depend on a quarterback or a scheme or a team in general. There are very few that just straight up perform all the time. Those are your special players. When I look at Brandin Cooks, I see 4 different teams and I see 1,000-yard seasons with all 4. He was in New England for 1 year, 1,000 yards. The Rams, 1,000 yards. New Orleans, and now Houston, 2 straight years. No Deshaun Watson, either. Putting up those numbers in Houston with no Deshaun Watson. So he's playing with Tyrod Taylor and Davis Mills and whomever else started the game over there, putting up those numbers. That's impressive to me from an outsider looking in. I don't know how you could even do that. Put up 1,000-plus yards without Deshaun Watson. Who the hell are you catching the ball from? Even in years past, too. New England had Tom Brady. We all know New England isn't really good for their wide receivers. They aren't known for that. He put up 1,000 yards there. Jared Goff and the Rams, 1,000-plus yards. Drew Brees, too. There's a lot of good and a good career that comes with Brandin Cooks. There are some issues, though, and that's the thing that's a bit scary. Right now for Cooks, he's pretty much a 1-year rental. He needs a new contract after this season. Going to be 28, so if the Bears took him, traded for him, there's going to be a problem. So if the Bears took him or traded for him, they'd need to extend him and spend money on him, and he's going to be 29, 30 years old. Now, I don't see a problem with that in the short term if Cooks is able to stay healthy and produce. Veteran wide receiver, always known to be productive. Good guy on and off the field, too. You know, you never hear any drama about Cooks at all. You never hear anything in general about him. Very quiet, puts up good numbers, goes home. That's really it. The whole thing boils down to age, to value on the trade, and to cap situations and money. So pretty much everything. But seriously, Got a guy who's going to be 28, 1-year rental. If the Bears decided to trade for him, they'd give up a second-round pick, potentially. I think that's a bit too much, to be honest, but then you have him for this year, but you have to extend him. You have to pay him more money for ages 29, 30, 31, even older. And we don't know what he's going to do at that time. Will he be healthy? Can he even produce as he gets older? So far, he's proven that, but as we know in the NFL, anything could happen. And I personally would be a little bit uncomfortable paying somebody a 3 or 4 year deal with lots of guaranteed money when you don't know what you're going to get. Here's the positive, though. The Bears have a ton of cap room next year. We've all talked about this a number of times. The Bears have tons of cap room, tons of money to spend. They don't have to pay him now, they have to pay him next year. I mean, it's a really interesting question. Brandin Cooks. You give up a second-round pick, you will be on the hook for a new contract for him. Probably going to have to pay him handsomely. He's getting older. See, my gut tells me not a good idea, but we're not even looking at the positives that he brings. Number one, leader, veteran, WR1 guaranteed here in Chicago, 1,000-plus yards with other teams, still putting up numbers despite getting older. And all you have to do is trade a second-round pick and pay him, but you have cap space available. And the Bears could be good by 2023. Well, there's your veteran wide receiver. That helps big time for Justin Fields. It's a complicated situation. And there's really no right or wrong answer, in my opinion. Either way, there are merits and there are problems with doing it. One of those rare moves in the NFL, really, where you could say there's good and there's bad to it, and we don't really know. We're not going to know till we could see him play and produce, or lack thereof, at age 30, 31. Can't predict the future, can't predict injuries, or being out of the league, plain and simple. So it's a classic gamble. It really is a gamble for Ryan Poles and for Bears management if they want to go through with this. Now, for next year's contract for Cooks, he's going to be owed $8 million. The Texans will eat up the rest of the cap salary, too. So what you're doing, essentially, you're giving up a second-round pick for a 1-year rental with Brandin Cooks at $8 million, with the potential to extend him, but you have to pay him out of your own pocket based on cap space, based on what the market shows. It's going to be 29, 30, 31 years old. In the new window, you'll have to pay him. But you're going to be contending at that point. You need a veteran wide receiver. You need somebody to help you. Can't just rely on Darnell Mooney, and Brandin Cooks is a proven WR1 or WR2, depending on the team, and always puts up 1,000 yards regardless of the scheme, team, or quarterback. It's a complex question. And really, it all boils down to what we don't know, which is what is he going to do in a couple of years? Will he even be in the league anymore? Look, if I'm the Bears, this would be probably the riskiest move of the entire offseason. Everything's been low-key, low money, not a lot of fanfare or hype. And there's been, so far at least, an emphasis on the draft, according to Ryan Poles, and that's fine. You need young guys. But I will say this, when you're ready to contend next year, if that's the plan or not, but maybe it is, you do need some veteran presence mixed in with younger guys. You can't just have a bunch of rookies with Justin Fields and say, yeah, we're ready to compete. Well, not really. Just a tough situation. It's a gamble. It really is a gamble for the Bears at this point. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. I mean, you do technically, but with age, that becomes the problem. The uncertainty arises from his age and from the money you may have to pay him too. 1 year, $8 million for a second-round pick is a little bit overpriced. But if there's a guarantee that he will re-sign with you, if you could pay him maybe $10 million at most, $11 million, he could put up 1,000-plus yards every year, 900-plus yards every year, be a WR1 or a WR2. Not a bad move at all. That would be a great signing for the Bears and, most importantly, for Justin Fields. Justin Fields needs weapons, needs a team around him. And that's the whole problem, even with this year for the Bears. This is a concern of mine. How can we accurately judge him if he has still nothing around him? If there are very few improvements made in the offensive line, if there are no wide receivers still, but Darnell Mooney and, okay, Byron Pringle, what are we doing here? How can we determine if he's good or not? How do we know? Look what happened this year. Rightfully so, bad coach, bad scheme, bad team around Justin Fields. Didn't work. We all know that. I did not blame Justin Fields for the problems that hurt him this year. But here's my question. How are we supposed to determine if he's so good, if he's so talented, if he really is the guy for the Bears, when a whole lot of the same thing's going to be happening this upcoming season? I know the Bears don't want to spend money. I know they're trying to save for next year, the years to come. They're trying to rebuild. But at the same time, you cannot accurately determine what Justin Fields is as a quarterback if there's nothing around him again for year 2. What are we going to do? Wait till year 3, year 4, year 5 before even as a team then accurately determine? Then what if he doesn't work out? Whole thing's a waste. I'm not saying the Bears need to go out and spend money. I've liked a lot of these shrewd moves from Ryan Poles, but the fact is, when you look at the offense right now, not much has changed. Seriously, not much has changed. Talking about number 3, number 4, number 5 receivers being signed by the Bears, how's that going to help Justin Fields? Maybe he has a connection with Darnell Mooney, but what else? Nothing. And the offensive line, for the most part, is the same too, right now. In fact, it's worse. They've lost guys. That's what bothers me. That's what really bothers me about judging and saying this is the year to judge Justin Fields. Well, is it really? If there are no improvements, if there's nothing to show for what Ryan Poles did, for him taking over, how can we say Justin Fields is better or worse? At that point, it's going to come down to, can he improve upon last year with a similar team? And if he does, then yes, maybe he has it in him. But what if Justin Fields does worse than last year? What if it's apparent that Justin Fields needs some sort of team, something, some sort of help, doesn't have it, does worse? Then what are we going to say? These are just big questions. Nothing more than that. And it's going to be on Ryan Poles' shoulders and Matt Eberflus, Luke Getsy to try and get this thing right for him. But what have we heard for pretty much months, almost a year now? Justin Fields needs a team, needs a scheme, needs a coaching staff that conforms to him. You want to be a successful quarterback in the NFL now? You need to have people who conform to you, not the other way around. Look at what Matt Nagy did. We've talked about this a number of times. Matt Nagy went through 5 different quarterbacks, all of them saying the same thing. They don't fit in his system. If you break up with different women, 5 different women, for the same reason, there's a problem with you, buddy. Not somebody else. It's the same thing here. He went through Mitch Trubisky, Chase Daniel, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields. Nothing worked. So yeah, it's a Matt Nagy problem. You need a team around you. You need a system that conforms to you. And I have my doubts right now about Justin Fields just for the fact that the Bears didn't make any big changes yet. Maybe they changed up the offense and maybe that'll work. Luke Getsy. But what about personnel? Brandin Cooks would not be a bad move. I wouldn't criticize it at all. I think it would be a great move for the Bears, but are they willing to spend that money? Are they willing to take the gamble? Well, my gut says no, based on what's happened already. And that's fine. I get it. Maybe you don't like what you see in Brandin Cooks. I'm not telling you have to do it. But what I'm saying is, don't come crying when Justin Fields has nothing around him and then we're wondering how to evaluate him. What are we going to say about him? Oh, he had a bad team again. Well, then we waste another year watching Justin Fields. We don't know what we're getting, what we're seeing. That's scary. That's pretty scary. I wish him all the best. But right now, still, the Bears have not put him in a good enough position to succeed. And that's being brutally honest, but that's the truth. I don't see enough to suggest that he's going to be great and he's looking much better. This team looks better. Look, there's been a new offensive coordinator, and I know Matt Nagy inflicted a lot of damage, but the fact is the personnel wasn't there either. There was no offensive line, and there really were no wide receivers but Darnell Mooney. And Allen Robinson, who was sabotaged, and we know this. So my hope is that the Bears do something when it comes to the wide receiving core. I know the offensive line is first. I know who cares about the wide receivers if you have half a second to throw the football. But if you're not going to say it's Brandin Cooks, and that's fine, then who will it be? Hopefully, there will be movement in the draft, but honest question, who will it be? Can't just be Darnell Mooney and Pringle and St. Brown, who has a career-high 98 yards in a season. There needs to be real talent around him. Something. And there's nothing right now. And unless that changes, you cannot tell me objectively, hey, Justin Fields is great or he's a bust. You can't tell me that. Not if he has the same team or a similar team or not much difference. We need to see real change from the Bears. If they go after Brandin Cooks, I'll be happy. If they don't, that's fine. But this is an opportunity for some real change. This is a proven wide receiver. You give up a second, maybe even a third-round pick. You could pull it off. 1 year, $8 million, and you can re-sign him if you'd like, if he does good. There's good and bad to the move. But hey, at least it provides Justin Fields with some sort of veteran. That's the one thing I hated about last year. Justin Fields, young quarterback, no help whatsoever. Why not give him a veteran wide receiver? Why would Matt Nagy sabotage Allen Robinson? Imagine how beneficial it would have been if he had Darnell Mooney for sure, and then Allen Robinson, a proven vet, knows what he's doing, has seen success in the NFL. I just think it would be more comfortable. It would be an extra layer of protection for Justin Fields. If he had a wide receiver who's a veteran, who knows what he's doing, knows the league, knows the landscape, and can put up some decent numbers and serve really as a safety blanket. That's all. Safety net. When all goes wrong, when Darnell Mooney's going to be covered, hey, report to Brandin Cooks. Veteran, he knows how to go up and get the football. And he's proven it year in and year out with these numbers I'm looking at. I mean, from 2014 to 2021, he's been consistent. Very consistent. 8 years, almost 8,000 receiving yards. He averages 1,000 yards per year. His rookie year, he barely played, only had 500, and then the tough year with the Rams in 2019. Other than that, every year it's 1,000 yards, guaranteed. He's proven enough to everybody that he is a quality wide receiver, and he's very underrated. No one talks about him because he's not a diva. Doesn't go out and cause problems. He's very quiet. Like Allen Robinson, very quiet. Came out, did great, moved on. Went to different teams. Saw success with different coaches, different schemes, different quarterbacks. That's encouraging. That's a good sign if you're looking for a wide receiver. That's what I would do if I was a GM. Really, that's what I would do. I'd look and see, okay, has he done this with other teams, other quarterbacks, other schemes, other coaches? Is it sustained success? And what's he bring right now to me? Well, I just came off a 1,000-yard season at 28 years old with Davis Mills. He has something left, obviously. So I think for the Bears and for Justin Fields' sake more than anything, it wouldn't be stupid to pull the trigger. Thanks for watching today's show here on BPOD TV, channel 59.3 in Roku. Really appreciate the time. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. You want to watch more of this show? Search up Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube or go to sportstalkchicago.com and make sure you tune in every night at 10:30 right here on BPOD TV. So long, everyone.